Hello and welcome to Shattering Black Male Stereotypes, eradicating the 10 most destructive media-generated illusions about black men. Before we begin the webinar, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Coach Michael Taylor, and I am the author of the Amazon.com best-selling book, Black Men Rock, 10 Keys to Empower Black Men to Live Extraordinary Lives. And I'm also the founder and creator of BlackmenRock.net, which is an online resource designed specifically to empower black men to reach their full potential. For the past 20 years or so, I have been writing and speaking about men's issues, and I have made it my life's work to support men in redefining masculinity. Men's work is my passion because I believe it is important to support men in recognizing how the changing roles of manhood are changing dramatically. And it's important for men to embrace these changing roles if they truly want to live rewarding and fulfilling lives. During my research, I noticed that there were very few men of color involved in men's work, so I took it upon myself to become a voice for black men to help them recognize that despite the negative media-generated stereotypes, it is absolutely possible for us to live extraordinary lives. And so how do I know this? Well, if I can overcome being a high school dropout, divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosure, and depression to now being an entrepreneur, author, motivational speaker, and radio show host, I know that it is possible for any black man to also live the life of his dreams. Will it be easy? Probably not. But is it possible? Absolutely. What is needed is a new attitude and mindset for black men that challenges and empowers them to see themselves as victors, not victims. My goal is to support you, the viewer, in feeling powerful, not powerless. Because when a person feels powerful, there is nothing he cannot accomplish. So the intention of this webinar is to provide you with some insights and information that can support you in changing your mindset, which will then change your attitude, which will automatically change your actions, which will then change your outcomes. Herein lies the key to your success. Your attitude determines the altitude of how high you can climb up the ladder of success. So if you're ready, let's get started with Shattering Black Male Stereotypes, eradicating the 10 most destructive media-generated illusions about black men. So let's begin with stereotypes. What are they and where do they come from? One definition is to believe unfairly that all people or things with a particular characteristic are the same. Here are a few examples. All blonde women are dumb. All men think about is sex. All black people can dance. All Asians have high IQs. All Muslims are terrorists. And all politicians are corrupt. These are just a few stereotypes, but they all fit the description, which is to believe unfairly that all people or things with a particular characteristic are the same. So obviously, all blonde women aren't dumb. All men do not only think about sex. All black people can't dance. All Asians do not have high IQs. All Muslims are definitely not terrorists, and believe it or not, all politicians aren't corrupt. When we assume that people with a particular characteristic are all the same, then we create stereotypes that aren't necessarily true, but when held strongly within our minds, they can shape our perception and reality of a particular group. So, where do stereotypes come from? I believe there are three primary sources. First, they come from our families. Second, they come from our culture. And third, they come from our media. Stereotypes are learned. We aren't born with them. They are not a part of our genetic makeup. So if they are learned, that means they can be unlearned. The first source of stereotypes begins with our families. Since our parents or caregivers are the primary source that we learn from, some stereotypes are taught to us through our families. We listen to our parents and then we start believing certain things about people from other cultures that we may not have been exposed to, and some stereotypes are formed. Next, depending on the culture we are raised in, we create beliefs and assumptions about others based on the culture. For example, if we are raised in a Christian household, we may accept a stereotype that people of other religions are wrong for their beliefs. The stereotype could be, all people of other religions are going to hell if they do not accept Christian beliefs. These are cultural beliefs that can be passed down from one generation to the next, and they become the basis for stereotypes. And last but not least, Our media is the source of a large majority of stereotypes. If you have not had personal experience with people of other races, then the media will definitely shape your perception. You must understand that the media's job is to primarily focus on everything that is negative and sensationalized, so whenever they cover any story, it's usually focused on negativity. So, if your only exposure with people of other races is through television, I can assure you that you have developed some negative stereotypes about people who may appear to be different than you are. Another way to look at stereotypes is through subconscious beliefs. If you will look deeply into stereotypes, you will find that there are simply erroneous beliefs that are held at an unconscious level that drive our behavior. For example, if I have a subconscious belief that says white people can't be trusted, how do you think I will act when I'm exposed to white people? I simply won't trust them. But what if they truly are trustworthy? My subconscious beliefs will still not allow me to trust them, even if they are trustworthy. This is the power of beliefs and stereotypes. The tighter we cling to stereotypes, the more difficult it is to accept people who may not look like us. Subconscious beliefs and stereotypes are powerful. Try and imagine someone who believes something so strongly that they give their lives to support their beliefs. This is what happens with religious fundamentalists. They would rather give their lives than change their beliefs about their religion. Sad, but true. I mentioned that stereotypes are learned, and if they are learned, they can be unlearned. And so the intention of this webinar is to help people unlearn some of the negative media-generated stereotypes about Black men. Our media perpetuates most of these stereotypes, and my job is to shine the light of truth on them and hopefully change your perception about Black men. The truth is, we are no different than any other group of men. We want to love and be loved. We want to feel that our lives made a difference with others. We have big dreams and goals. And most of all, we simply want to be judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. So, in the words of Johnny Mercer and the Pied Pipers, let's accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, and latch on to the affirmative. So, let's get started with the 10 most destructive media-generated illusions about Black men. Illusion number 1. Black men are an endangered species. The first negative media-generated stereotype is that somehow Black men are an endangered species. Without question, Black men are faced with a multiplicity of challenges: police brutality, racism, high incarceration rates, discrimination, an unfair justice system, and a host of other challenges which are real. We are confronted with these obstacles on a daily basis. But are Black men really an endangered species? I believe the answer is an emphatic no. I do not deny the obstacles, but as an optimist, my perception is the complete opposite. I believe that Black men are positioned to experience unprecedented levels of success in America today. The doors of opportunity are wide open for those of us who are willing to walk through them and take advantage of these opportunities. There are lots of reasons for my optimism, the first of which is my own observations of successful Black men. What I recognize is that there is no segment of society that does not have Black male presence. We are doctors, lawyers, podiatrists, entrepreneurs, web developers, entertainers, astrophysicists, geologists, actors, writers, judges, politicians, ministers, and even president of the most powerful country on the planet. Statistically, over the past 15 years, we have seen a significant increase in Black males going to college and graduating high school. More of us are receiving PhDs and advanced degrees than ever, which means that we are creating educators for the future that ultimately should result in more educated Black males in general. We've also seen a significant reduction in Black males being incarcerated and dropping out of high school. Despite what you may see in the media, Black-on-Black crime has actually decreased over the past 15 years, but you would never see that statistic in the media. Rest assured that there is no threat of extinction of Black men in America. There has never been an obstacle placed in front of us that we haven't overcome, and I'm absolutely convinced that we can and will overcome all of the challenges that we are currently dealing with. But it all begins with our mindset and how we see ourselves. As a man who happens to be black, I must admit that I am proud and grateful for my ethnic background. At the same time, I recognize that my skin color or ethnicity does not define me. I get to define myself based on my own inner beliefs and perceptions about who I am. If I do not want to act consistent with negative media-generated stereotypes, I must first recognize any erroneous beliefs I may have about what it means to be a black man. If any of those beliefs happen to be negative, it is my responsibility to change them to being positive. This is the key to our success as black men. We can no longer buy into the negative media-generated perceptions about who we are. We must invest in our own personal development and transformation so that we can transcend and do not conform to the media-generated stereotypes. We have everything we need right now to overcome the challenges before us. What has been missing is a powerful and positive resource designed specifically for black men, and that is the reason I put together this webinar, wrote my book, and launched my website. I firmly believe that our best days are ahead of us, and I am committed to starting a new revolution that empowers black men to recognize that black men rock, and we are not an endangered species. Illusion number 2. Black men are less intelligent than other men. For a very long time, this country did everything it could to prove that black people were somehow less intelligent than white people. There were so-called experts that said we were genetically inferior. There were organizations that proposed that black people had smaller brains than white people and were therefore incapable of being as smart as whites. Although times have definitely changed and we've made great strides in race relations in this country, there is still the implied stereotype that black men are less intelligent than other men. A lot of it has to do with how the media showcases black men in general. I remember listening to a reporter who once said that she was instructed to always find the most illiterate and least educated black person she could find whenever she did an interview in the inner city. So if you look at this country's history, it shouldn't be a stretch to understand why black people in general have been stereotyped to be less intelligent than other groups. Just think about these two simple questions. How could black people be expected to be as smart as white people when we were denied access to learning how to read? In addition, how could we compete with whites when we were placed in an inferior educational system that was based on wealth and segregation, which left us with inferior schools and teachers based on wealth more so than race? My point here is simple. Blacks have never been less intelligent than whites. We simply did not have access to the same resources that would have proven our intelligence. Now that we have adequate access to education and information, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we are taking advantage of this access. It's been said that if a person wants to learn, no one can stop them. But if a person doesn't want to learn, no one can help them. We must accept the fact that the media will continue to focus their attention on a small minority of us who appear to be less intelligent. They will showcase some rappers who may not be able to intelligently articulate their point of view, or they will showcase the black man who may not be able to pronunciate certain words. Either way, the media will continue to focus their attention on the small minority of us, while the majority of us are intelligent, hardworking individuals who simply want to be portrayed as equal to others. I'm reminded of a lesson my grandfather taught me when I was approximately 10 years old. I had an experience at school in which a classmate of mine made the comment that she was smarter than me because she said her parents told her that white people were smarter than black people. When I shared this with my grandfather, this is what he said. I want you to imagine that there are two people about to run a race. Both people run at exactly the same speed. So if both people run at exactly the same speed, when the race is finished, it would end in a tie. But if one of them had a head start, then they would finish first. That is the only difference between black people and white people. They have simply had a head start. But rest assured, black people are pretty fast, and before you know it, black people will catch up with white people and the race will end in a tie. His words of wisdom really stuck with me, and I've used this story to help me deal with the challenges of being a black man in America. It is this simple story that infuses me with hope and optimism that eventually we will overcome all of the challenges we face, and ultimately we will tie the race as equals. Our goal has never been to try and prove that we are superior. Our goal has simply been to be accepted as equals. So, consider this illusion shattered. Black men are not and have never been less intelligent than any other group of men. Illusion number 3. Black men are all angry and violent. Have you ever noticed how most black men featured in the news are featured as angry and violent? When was the last time you saw a black man in the news talking about being joyful and happy with a smile on his face? The media-generated perception is that black men have a greater propensity for violence, yet there is really no scientific evidence that supports this point. As a life coach, I have coached men of all ethnicities, and I am absolutely convinced that there is no correlation between race and violence. And the reason so many people accept this negative stereotype is simply because of the portrayal of black men as violent throughout our media. The sad part is that far too many of our men buy into this stereotype, and they put on these masks of being hard, rigid, and tough, when in reality they can be sad, scared, or confused. I have read several stories in which it has been said that black men need more role models to project authentic masculinity. But unfortunately, the media-generated perception of masculinity is what is causing the majority of problems in the first place for our black men. Generally speaking, men have been conditioned that it's not okay to feel. We are taught that real men don't cry or show emotion because that is a sign of weakness. Herein lies the problem. When we teach our young men to disconnect from their feelings, it removes their ability to create healthy relationships. The reason is, you cannot be relational if you're unwilling to be emotional, and some of our men are terrified of being emotional. They have accepted that being sensitive or emotional is a sign of weakness, and therefore they refuse to allow themselves to create true intimacy and connection in their relationships. Too many men are not emotionally equipped to create authentic connection in relationships, and a lot of this is the result of accepting the media-generated stereotypes that suggest black men are always angry. So let's set the record straight. Black men are no more angry than any other group of men. We have the same feelings and emotions as other men, and we are definitely capable of creating emotionally connected and intimate relationships that truly nurture us. We feel love and compassion. We feel sadness and disappointment. We feel joy and sorrow. We feel empathy and experience true intimacy. Our goal must be to redefine masculinity and support our men in understanding their emotions and how to express them appropriately. We must create safe environments that allow men to be okay with being vulnerable and open with their emotions. Creating a dialogue with men about how they feel and then providing them with tools to express their emotions honestly and authentically is the only way we will move past the negative stereotypes that say that all black men are violent. So rest assured that this is an erroneous illusion about black men, and the majority of us are not angry and violent, and we are definitely capable of expressing our deepest feelings and emotions. Illusion number 4. Black men can't be monogamous. If you've ever watched a rap video or listened to any hardcore rap music, it should be easy to see how this stereotype gets perpetuated. In these videos, you see black men with multiple women wearing next to nothing, and the message is that the more women you have and sleep with, the more you validate your masculinity. The term player is seen as a term of endearment, and too many men refuse to be monogamous because a true player would never settle down with just one woman. This illusion promotes the idea that having a loving monogamous relationship is a sign of weakness, and therefore any man who chooses to be in a loving relationship is viewed as a punk or sissy, or even worse, they are seen as being pussy whipped and not having a backbone, and they aren't viewed as real men. This illusion actually transcends race, because in general, men have been conditioned to believe that sexual conquest is a gauge for manhood. But in regards to black men, This illusion is definitely blown out of proportion and needs to be eradicated. So let's set the record straight. Black men are definitely capable of being monogamous. We know how to commit to just one woman, and we are definitely capable of creating intimate, loving, supportive, nurturing, and connected relationships that soothe our souls and provides us with emotional security. As a man who has been happily married for the past 13 years, I can attest to the fact that black men aren't afraid of marriage and monogamy. To be completely transparent, I absolutely love being married, and I absolutely adore my wife. My wife is the most loving, supportive, and dedicated woman that I've ever met, and that's the reason that I married her and committed to spending the rest of my life with her. So rest assured that all black men are definitely capable of being monogamous, but ultimately, all black men may not choose to be. The real question you have to ask yourself is, are you willing to choose monogamy for yourself? Are you open to the possibility that you could create a relationship that is rewarding and fulfilling and fulfills all of your emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs? Monogamy is a choice. It has nothing to do with race or ethnicity. It is a choice that involves commitment, openness, vulnerability, and a willingness to share ourselves with another in a way that creates a bond that can never be broken. So ultimately, you get to choose. Will you choose monogamy? Illusion number 5. Black men are deadbeat dads. One of the most destructive illusions perpetuated by our media is that all black men are deadbeat dads. The ramifications of this illusion are devastating because this illusion tears at the very fabric of black male masculinity. It implies that we do not love or care for our children. It implies that we simply want to impregnate women and then have absolutely no responsibility or involvement with them once they are born. Yet nothing could be further from the truth. We do love our children, and the majority of us are actually good fathers. To substantiate this, I would like to share a few statistics from a study done by the Center for Disease Control in 2013. In summary, the study found that black men were actually more involved with their children than other racial groups. Here are a few statistics from the study. More African American fathers live with their children than live apart from their children, which definitely contradicts the media-generated illusion that black men abandon their children. 78.2% fed or ate meals with their children daily, compared with 73.9% of white fathers. 70.4% bathed, diapered, or dressed their children daily, compared with 60% of white fathers. 82.2% played with their children daily. 34.9% read to their children daily, compared with 24.9% of white fathers. 40.6% helped their children with their homework or checked to make sure that they finished it daily, compared with 29.3% of white fathers. Of the fathers who live away from their children, African American fathers outperformed white and Latino fathers on nearly all measures surveyed, including reading to their children, helping them with their homework, and changing their diapers. These are not statistics that you would normally see in mainstream media, but they do shed light on the fact that black men are not deadbeat dads. The fact is, we are no different than any other fathers. Being a great father has nothing to do with genetics. It is learned behavior. A man who does not have a father figure in his life can still learn how to become a great father. Although I did not have a great relationship with my father, I made a choice that I was going to learn how to be a great father to my children. So I read books, went to lectures, and took courses on being a great dad. As a result, I can honestly say that being a father is one of my greatest accomplishments. I'd like to share a post that my 29-year-old daughter shared on Facebook for my 55th birthday. She wrote, in quotes, "Great men are not born great, they grow great. Today is the birthday of the best man in my life, who has been better than any father I could ever ask for. He motivates and inspires me, supports me, and loves me unconditionally. He is the most talented, driven, positive person I have ever known, and I'm so very proud to have the privilege of calling this special, one-of-a-kind man my dad." Happy birthday to a man who is truly great. I love you with all my heart, and don't you ever forget it. Her post confirms what's most important to me, which is she loves her father, and she knows that her father loves her. How often have you seen or heard that in the media from a black father? The truth is there are lots of black fathers who can say the same thing, but it probably will not make the evening news. So, do not accept the stereotype that black men aren't great fathers. Instead, defy the stereotypes and become the absolute best father that you can possibly be. Illusion number 6. Black men are sexually superior. On the surface, this may appear to be a compliment, but in reality, it isn't. The media-generated illusion is that black men are all hung to their knees and are sexually superior. The downside to this illusion is that some black men feel inadequate and inferior if they can't live up to the stereotype. There's a lot of pressure on most men in general about having sex, but when you have to deal with this illusion, it makes it even more difficult for any black man to feel like he measures up. Pun intended. Some rap music definitely perpetuates this stereotype. I'm reminded of a well-known rap song in which the lyric goes, "I am into having sex, I'm not into making love." The implication is that physical, unadulterated sex is preferred over intimacy and emotionally connected lovemaking. The illusion promotes the idea that all black men think about is having physical sex and do not care about the emotional and spiritual process of lovemaking. In a society that lives by the motto, sex sells, it's no wonder men in general struggle with sexuality. Our media constantly bombards us with images of beautiful, half-naked women, and the unconscious belief is that as men, our job is to simply sleep with as many of them as possible. When we watch or hear stories about athletes making it rain at strip clubs and spending thousands of dollars watching women shaking their naked bodies for men's pleasure, unconsciously we associate masculinity with sex. And from a black male perspective, we sometimes buy into this media-generated illusion. So let's set the record straight. There is no scientific evidence that supports the idea that black men are sexually superior to any other race of men. We aren't all hung to our knees, and we definitely believe in lovemaking versus just physical sex, although there is absolutely nothing wrong with physical sex in the right context. We are capable of creating intimate encounters with our partners that include emotional, physical, intellectual, and spiritual connection, and we understand the importance of affection and appreciation in our relationships. So the next time you hear or see the media perpetuate this illusion of our sexual superiority, just remember the words of Public Enemy. Don't believe the hype. Black men are no different than any other men when it comes to sex and sexuality. That's the unmitigated truth. Illusion number 7. Black men are physically superior. If you watch major sports like basketball, football, and track and field, it's easy to accept the stereotype that black men are physically superior to other races. But is this something that is scientifically verifiable? Believe it or not, the answer is no. Without question, black men do excel in these specific sports, but in no way does it prove that we are somehow physically superior to other races. Whenever a specific group attempts to prove its superiority, it automatically invalidates all the other groups. So our goal should not be to prove that we are better than other groups. Our goal should be to make sure that we are not shown to be less than, but equal to all other groups. In regards to physical fitness, there's an amazing paradox in regards to black men. Looking at the sports I just mentioned, you would think that black men would be proud of the positive exposure we receive through sports, and therefore as black men, we would take care of our physical bodies. However, although we are showcased as being physically superior, the fact is we lead the nation in most health-related illnesses and death. This is a disturbing paradox in which we must begin to focus more attention on. There are some who would argue that racism plays a role in this fact because black men are treated unfairly in the medical profession because of racism and discrimination. But we must take 100% responsibility for our health because we are always 100% responsible for what we eat and how we take care of our physical bodies. So, do not accept the stereotype and at the same time make a commitment to your own health and fitness and recognize that your health is your responsibility and no one can take care of your body. except you. Illusion number 8. Black men are not patriotic. If ever there was a story that symbolizes the complexity of being a black man in America in regards to patriotism and race, the story would have to be of Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens was the black track and field star who won 4 gold medals during the 1936 Olympics. During that time, Adolf Hitler was attempting to showcase white supremacy, and he made several comments about how Germans were the ultimate race and no one could beat them in the Olympic competition. Jesse Owens single-handedly proved him wrong by not only winning 4 gold medals, but by also setting 3 world records and tying another. During this time, America was still struggling with racial segregation, and although Jesse Owens served as a representative for America at the Olympics, unfortunately, he did not receive the recognition or accolades for someone who had accomplished so much for his country. As a matter of fact, he was still treated as less than human once he came back to the U.S. To think about how he was treated after all he did for his country really saddens me. I can empathize with some black men who say that America is unfair to black men and they are justifiably angry and unwilling to say that they love their country. Jesse Owens' story serves as a reminder of the challenges that we still deal with today. Although there are obviously some black men who feel that America has let them down and continues to disrespect and invalidate them, my belief is that most black men do not feel this way. I believe most of us recognize how unfair this country can be in regards to race, but I fervently believe that the majority of us still love this country despite the atrocities and unfairness that still exists. We are no less patriotic than any other race, although we have to deal with additional challenges that people of other races do not have to deal with. I still believe that America is the greatest country on the planet, and despite the challenges, things are getting better, not worse, in race relations and other societal ills. Illusion number 9. Successful black men always marry white women. This is a stereotype that is easily refuted by simply looking at the statistic from the U.S. Census that says 73% of black men marry within their own race. If 73% of black men are marrying within their own race, then obviously most black men do not marry white women. Since the stereotype asserts that successful black men are the ones who marry white women, and I have no way of defining exactly what would constitute a successful black man, I will only assume that the numbers would still hold true at approximately 73%, even for the successful black men category. The reason so many people accept this stereotype is because the media will definitely showcase celebrities and athletes who marry outside of their race and then exploit this point to make money. But the real question is, does it really matter? Does it really matter if a black man marries someone outside of his race? My immediate answer is no. I believe every person should have the right to choose who they want to marry and spend the rest of their lives with. To insinuate that a black man only marries a white woman because of self-hatred or because he has a hatred of all black women is ludicrous in my opinion. Maybe, just maybe, he took the time to understand what qualities and values he was looking for in a woman, and he happened to find them in a woman that happened to have a different color of skin. I personally have no problem with interracial dating or marriage at all, and I believe the good news is that more and more people are becoming more open-minded, and ultimately we will realize that love knows no color. But to imply that black men aren't emotionally and intellectually competent in choosing their partners and only choose white women as a status symbol is an insult to black men. Are there some black men who do? I'm sure there are. But I will assert that most of us are smart enough to know what we're looking for in a partner, and we're willing to be open-minded in finding someone who meets our criteria. Ultimately, the color of their skin shouldn't be the deciding factor. The beautiful thing about being human is we have this wonderful gift called free will or choice. We get to choose who we love. Choose wisely. Illusion number 10. Black men always use race as an excuse for failure. As this country continues to showcase the atrocities and unfairness that black men are exposed to on a daily basis, the reality is sinking in that race is still a major issue in this country. There are some people who believe we live in a post-racial America, which makes no sense to me because if it were truly post-racial, we wouldn't be having a conversation about race. The truth is, race does matter, and we still have a ways to go in terms of race relations. With that being said, I do not believe that race relations are actually getting worse in this country. Despite the apparent challenges we have in regards to race, I remain optimistic that race relations can and will improve in the immediate future. There is a stereotype that says all black men use race as an excuse for failure, and I wanted to dispel that stereotype right now. If you aren't a black male, it will be difficult, if not impossible, for you to empathize or understand the challenges of being a black man in America. This isn't using race as an excuse. It's an undeniable fact. There's a scene in the movie Crash in which Terrence Howard plays a successful black man in Hollywood who is driving home one night when he and his wife are pulled over by a racist police officer. The police officer actually assaults him and his wife, and there is nothing he can actually do about it. In the scene, he is absolutely powerless. If he resists, there is the possibility that he will get arrested or, even worse, get killed. By not being able to say anything or being able to defend himself, he begins to feel inadequate in protecting himself and his wife. So what should he do? Should he attempt to save his wife from the assault of the police officer? Should he resist the officer's attack and risk becoming just another statistic of a black male senselessly killed by a racist cop? He decides to cooperate with the police officer, and eventually the police officer lets him go. As he is driving home, there is silence between he and his wife. He obviously feels emasculated and humiliated as a man. You could feel the anger inside of him, and there was no outlet for him to release it. When they arrive home, his wife actually attacks him for not protecting her and blames him for the entire incident. She accuses him of not being a real man and completely invalidates his experience and was unwilling to acknowledge the difficult choice he had to make in not resisting arrest. This scene is the perfect metaphor for being a black man in America. I'm sure most black men can relate to the feeling of powerlessness that the character felt in that scene. Not only do we have to deal with outside forces like the police officer, we also have to deal with inside forces of the people we care about who sometimes aren't supportive and understanding of the challenges we face. So if you ever hear a black man saying that it's difficult for them to make it in society, before you judge him as playing the victim card, take a moment and try and walk in his shoes. Although there will be some black men that cop out and use race as an excuse, the overwhelming majority of us won't. And despite the challenges before us, we will always find a way to succeed. I'm not asking for your sympathy, but I am asking for a little compassion for us because the challenges are real, and we aren't just making up excuses or blaming society for some of our failures. It is becoming apparent that our justice system is unfair, our educational system is biased, and our media continues to do an unfair, irresponsible job in showcasing black men in general. But despite all of these challenges, black men continue to blaze new trails. And in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we aren't where we want to be, but thank God we're not where we used to be. The best is yet to come. So there you have them. The 10 most destructive media-generated illusions about black men. Once you learn to recognize them and not act consistent with them, I can assure you that you've laid the groundwork for creating the life of your dreams. So let's review them one more time to make sure that you ground them deep into your psyche. Illusion number 1, black men are an endangered species. So let's flip the script and say, black men are not an endangered species. Illusion number 2, black men are less intelligent than other men. Let's flip the script. Black men are just as intelligent as any other men. Illusion number 3, black men are all angry and violent. We'll flip the script. Black men are capable of expressing all of their emotions openly and honestly, and they do not act out negative media-generated stereotypes. Illusion number 4, black men can't be monogamous. Flip the script. Black men are capable of creating loving, caring, monogamous relationships. Illusion number 5, black men are deadbeat dads. Flip the script. Black men are loving, caring, and nurturing fathers. Illusion number 6, Black men are sexually superior. Flip the script. Black men are comfortable with their sexuality and are not sexually superior to other men. Illusion number 7. Black men are physically superior. Let's flip the script. Black men take care of their physical bodies and engage in healthy lifestyles. Illusion number 8. Black men are not patriotic. Flip the script. Despite the challenges of living in America, black men love and support this country. Illusion number 9. Successful black men always marry white women. Flip the script. Black men make conscious decisions about the type of women that they choose to develop intimate relationships with. Illusion number 10. Black men always use race as an excuse for failure. When we flip the script, it says, black men take 100% responsibility for their lives, turning out the way they want them to. My hope is that this webinar has shined some light on some of the negative stereotypes about black men. If you are truly committed to dispelling these myths in your own life, then simply make the commitment to yourself that you're going to invest in your own personal development and you are willing to learn everything you need in order to live the life you were born to live. If you're looking for other resources to support you, I highly recommend that you log on to my website at blackmenrock.net and join our community of like-minded men who are ready to live extraordinary lives. And while you're there, be sure to pick up your copy of Black Men Rock, 10 Keys to Empower Black Men to Live Extraordinary Lives. Good luck on your journey. I look forward to seeing you on the other side of success. Take care.